just realized that you are on the other side today. You're the
I
interviewer.
know. I know. It's so weird. It's
And
so weird. But that's good because when we talk about job seekers, that's also something that I mentioned on stage in Madeira is like people get nervous, right?
yeah.
Well, recruiters get nervous too, especially if you have like I was nervous when I was interviewing you back then. Like
Ah, yes.
you have someone with an amazing background. Like you want this person to like the job. Like you get nervous. But I
Yeah.
think it's very good having me on the other side being the one who's interviewed because then when we talk about people getting nervous,
Yeah.
like I know exactly what we're talking about.
Exactly. And it's all about perspectives and understanding the other side. And that is exactly why I invited you today to talk with me or to talk with us. Um, because, yeah, the purpose of this conversation is to help job seekers in Bitcoin understand the perspective of a recruiter. Um, yeah, so and you have tons of experience as a Bitcoin recruiter in the space. You've written two ebooks, which I have both read. So anybody watching who hasn't read them yet, go to thunder.wtf and read them both. One is for job seekers, the other one is for employers. And yeah, I love your writing style also. It's like just no bullshit, just like bam, 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 do this, don't do that, know this. It's yeah, really great. Everybody check it out. Yeah, so my purpose with Bitvocation is to help Bitcoiners find jobs in the space, not as a recruiter. That's your expertise, but just as a provider of resources. Today, you are going to be our resource. I have created this Telegram channel where we have a bot that scrapes the internet for all the latest job listings in Bitcoin, whether they are posted on job boards or on the careers pages of Bitcoin companies. We scrape whatever we can. We keep adding every day. So yeah, any job seeker can just type Bitvocation feed in Telegram and subscribe to the channel. You can also talk to the bot directly once there are more jobs, which I expect in the bull market. Maybe it's going to be a bit more, a bit overwhelming. So then you can categorize, create job alerts, whatever. And my other focus in the next stage is to help Bitcoiners or Bitcoin job seekers to become more findable. And yeah, the purpose today of this conversation is to help job seekers find out how can they stick out more online, how can they become more findable to people who are searching like you, how can they stick out in a pile of CVs that you have on your desk. So these are all the questions that I hope we can shed some light on today. I also have some questions from the Bitvocation audience that we can get to later. But maybe we can start just by shedding some light in general on the Bitcoin job market. How competitive is it already? Because I know I have been completely delusional about how many job seekers or applicants are there per vacancy. So maybe let's start there. What is your view, or what can you share about the job market in Bitcoin right now?
Awesome question. Okay, well, first of all, thank you for having me. I am subscribed to your Bitvocation feed, and I mentioned it in my guide. I think it's extremely valuable. So instead of searching from one website to another, checking one company and then another one, and then you forget about this company or that, like you just subscribe to that feed, and you're good to go. Every day there's tons of actually tons. There are a fine number of new roles there every day, and I love it. I mean, it's muted for me because like I'm not a job seeker. I just like looking at the market and what's going on. So it's muted for me, but I do check it daily. It's a very valuable source. So whoever is looking to join the Bitcoin industry should definitely subscribe to it. It's very, very, very valuable. Speaking of I usually have some parasite words when we just begin talking. This is something that I realized, and it's very funny because I just realized my parasite words for this conversation. So, first time I was on a blockchain radio, my word was destiny. Then on the stage in Madeira, my word was overwhelming. And now I just repeated the word valuable for like 15 times already, which is fun. If you guys want, you can play a game, take a shot every time Thunder says valuable. Why not? But yeah, I'll just try to be aware of it and not repeat it. Okay, back to your question. I think that we we are finally talking about this very important topic, and I'm very happy that we have this opportunity to do so. Currently, there are much more applicants than jobs on the market. Not just currently, the situation's been going on for the last few years, I would say. But considering the fact that it's a very young industry and that more and more people are being orange pilled, which is amazing, this is not something that's like, wow, so surprising. Hopefully now the situation will change a little bit and we will see more jobs. But number of applicants, it really, really varies, like from role to role. So it can go from like 5, 6 applicants only because the job is like super specific to like 1,000. It really, really depends on the role itself. But yes, to conclude, we have much more applicants than jobs on the market.
And so I told you earlier, one of the saddest things that I've heard recently is that you have to actually start looking also outside of the Bitcoin community to fill certain roles, even though the market is so competitive and there are so many job seekers in the space. Still, for some roles, you cannot find the right people within the community, it seems. Can you say a little bit more? Because
it depends. I know, and for people watching this conversation, Anja and I already talked about it in Madeira. That was the first question she asked me. She was like, "Why are you hiring outside of the community?" And then we talked a little bit, and now I think it kind of makes sense to you. But like, let's go into detail there. So, it's sad, but at the same time, it's not. Let's talk about it. So, I want Bitcoiners to have their dream jobs into Bitcoin industry. Full stop. That's my mission. However, sometimes we have a very specific roles to fill. For example, I'm just giving some examples here. If you need your customer service department built from the ground up, how many people do we know doing that in the industry? Not much. And if you guys are doing it, exactly. And how many more? I know only about you. Who else is doing that? No, we are not of anyone else. So if you guys are doing that, if you guys have that experience, you need to make yourself more visible because we can't see you. Or another example, if you want to build your recruiting department from the ground up, I know only about like 3 people who could do it. It doesn't mean that there are no more Bitcoiners who would be able to do it. It's just like, guys, we don't see you. You need to make yourself more visible. So there are some roles that are very, very specific. So we have to look outside of the community. But on the other hand, bringing in normies is good. When we talk about the mass adoption, when we talk about orange pilling people, this is good. Yeah. If you have someone who's very curious, he's not or she's not a Bitcoiner, but they're very curious, they're very open-minded, those people can be amazing assets, not just to the certain company, but to the community. I know for 5 or 6 people who were not Bitcoiners until they got at their first Bitcoin job, and now they are contributing to the community far more than me, for example, who's a Bitcoiner for I don't know how many years. So the challenge we face there, at least the challenge that I face there, is trying to kind of determine who's not a Bitcoiner, but it's very curious to learn about it, has an open mind, and who's in it as a grifter, just like, I'm going to pretend I know nothing just because it's very cool to have that in your resume. That's what I talked about in Madeira on the stage. So it's something that us recruiters and hiring managers and founders, like whoever is in charge of hiring, needs to learn how to separate these people. Like, yes, we want non-Bitcoiners to convert them to Bitcoiners and to use their skill sets. Absolutely. But we also want to be very careful not to just get someone who's going to stay for 6 months or a year, put it in the CV. Oh, I worked in a Bitcoin company, or I worked in the crypto industry, or whatever, and then just leave. I hope I'm doing a good job with like separating who's who, but I just hope.
I think they can be found out so quickly if they're not a real Bitcoin. But okay, thank you for explaining that. And that is actually not as bad as I initially thought, because first of all, you are still going for the people who actually want to work in Bitcoin. So people just need to be more visible. There are so many people who want to work. They don't show it on their LinkedIn profile. They haven't done anything yet. So we just need to teach them how to be more visible, which is actually something that I already started a small beta tester group for anybody who's watching. Go to bitvocation.com and look for the POW Lab, Proof of Work Lab. I have not advertised it yet. And also it is actually, it's part of the revolution. Just like we take our money out of fiat, put it into Bitcoin, we have to take the people out of fiat and put them into Bitcoin. So it's all good. Thanks for explaining this. So when you have a new vacancy, can you shed some light of where do you search for candidates? Like where should people be more visible? Do you have your own database? Do you post on job boards? Do you utilize job boards? What is your general process?
Okay. Great question. So every time new role comes into the pipeline, first, I personally do. Now, these are just how I do things. It doesn't matter that other recruiters do the same. But I first check my network. And that's why I also mentioned that in guide to people, because I know a lot of people are like, oh, recruiter, like we're your friends. Like we want you to make it, because if you make it, I made it. So like it's a win-win situation. So naturally, first I check my network.
Do you mean LinkedIn by that? Do you have your own little Rolodex? Old-fashioned
That's actually a good question. As a recruiter, my network is everywhere. So people, and not just me, but like every recruiter, I feel like that's part of our job. You can find us on LinkedIn, you can find us on Telegram, on Signal, on Noster, on Twitter, on Facebook. Don't look for me on Facebook. On Instagram, don't look up for me on Instagram either. But like I think we're everywhere. And when we say our network, naturally, sometimes like you think LinkedIn first, but it's not just LinkedIn. It's way, way, way bigger than that. For me personally, it's Noster, LinkedIn and Noster, because I'm so big on Noster lately. But we have to separate, like if this job is coming from an external partner, or if you're working as an internal recruiter. Some companies have as internal, some companies that have internal recruiting team, they also have their talent pools, which I find very valuable, and it's a perfect resource. If that's not the case, then you will use job boards, you will do sourcing, you will do pretty much everything, but people should connect with everyone who's in hiring, not just recruiters, but hiring managers, like whoever you know that has ever tackled hiring. You want to connect with those people online, and you want to make yourself visible to these people online, because it doesn't matter if we had a chat like 6 months ago and you told me what you're doing, and I'm just having this coming into my pipeline right now. I may not remember your name specifically, but I know that we had a chat on LinkedIn. So what I do is I go to my LinkedIn inbox, and it takes me like an hour to find this person, but I find them and I'm like, hey, we talked 6 months ago. Do you still want to get in? Do you still want to talk about it? So it's really, really, really important. When we talk about sourcing, we need to distinguish these two flows. So people come through the organic flow, which is like you posted a job, click on the link, go and apply yourself. And people come through the sourcing. Sourcing is when we as recruiters go and look for candidates. Um, Even if we have a perfect pipeline and people coming in organically are amazing talents, we still want to do a little bit of sourcing just to make sure that we will have enough talent, flowing and coming in. So one does not exclude the other. That's very important for people to know. So like, even if you see the job post posted by the company, we still may do a little bit of sourcing too. Now, we explained what sourcing is, and sourcing strategy is something that's like a full philosophy behind sourcing strategy. And once again, every recruiter has, different ways to do things, and it also depends on the role. My personal sourcing strategy is determined by the role, by the a lot of other factors, but it goes from looking at open source projects on GitHub if we're talking about engineering roles, because as mentioned before, I want Bitcoiners to get their dream jobs into Bitcoin. So before looking for a developer elsewhere, I will try and look for some open source projects on GitHub, dedicated to Bitcoin, and try to find developers there. To sourcing on LinkedIn, using tons of other tools that I don't want to bother people with right now, but basically it's a mix of different techniques.
Yeah. And when you go to GitHub, you are looking for developers who contributed to open source projects, or are you looking for people who build their own? How good
It depends.
you have a own little project?
Also, that depends. So like, if I speak to the hiring manager and the hiring manager is like, you know what, I want someone who already contributed to the space, then I will look for someone who contributed, right? But if it doesn't matter, then I'm gonna still look for Bitcoiners on GitHub, regardless if they already made some contributions to open source or not, just to show them to my manager and be like, hey, Bitcoiner, this is GitHub. Tell me what you think about it. I'm not a technical person, but that's why I have my hiring manager who is a technical person to check that profile out. So call for all developers,
Yeah.
polish your GitHubs, please.
And what about the non-techies? Are they mostly on LinkedIn, and what should they do or not do on LinkedIn?
Most of them are on LinkedIn. LinkedIn still is the only professional network that we have. I am so hopeful that by the end of this year, that will no longer be the case, and that us Bitcoiners will have our own little corner of the internet. But let's wait and see. So yes, people are still using LinkedIn. I like it. I think it's very professional. And I know Bitcoiners are kind of divided into like, LinkedIn is good because it's a very professional. And sometimes I would connect with people on Noster, but we would move our conversation on LinkedIn just because like, oh, I can have your CV, or, like just more details.
Yeah.
And then there is this other group of people who's like, I'm not going to share my data, which is totally fine. Like, I'm not collecting any data on my ebooks. Like, I support you guys, but if you want to get a job, you will have to share a little bit of data with us. Like, I'm sorry. So as for the LinkedIn, I think the most important thing is that people should update their profiles.
Mm.
So you can upload your CV. I don't know if you know about these little tricks. Like, I don't know how publicly know these are.
I know a lot now because I've done so much research the last 3 months. But yeah, please share. Please share.
So you can upload your CV to LinkedIn. And then when you apply for a certain job, that CV will be submitted, right? But for me as a sourcer, when I use my LinkedIn recruiter and I source, what I can use as your CV is only what I see on your profile. Mm-hmm. So there is an option that says convert to PDF, I think, or switch to PDF, upload as PDF, doesn't matter. But it's like to export your experience into PDF. So whatever you put on About Me section and whatever you put on your experience is what I will have as your official CV. And that is what I'm going to show to my hiring managers. That is what I'm going to use as a relevant source. Now, what I want people to understand that I don't know how much of an amazing talent I passed because their LinkedIn profiles were meh. No About Me section or just like one tiny sentence. Experience listed as I work here from this date to that date, and my title was this.
Mm-hmm.
Don't, come on, just up.
Not even the word Bitcoin anywhere.
Nothing. No, no, no. And that's actually when I play with my filters, if I have to source on LinkedIn, when I play with my filters, the first filter I'm putting in is a keyword that says Bitcoin. Yeah. So whatever you have on your profile that has a word Bitcoin in it, I'll see you. Yeah. So I've seen a lot of profiles lately that people just write About Me section and then they put Bitcoiner, full stop. Yeah. And I'm like, oh,
enough.
Thank you.
Exactly. So I keep telling people, even if you have zero experience in Bitcoin, just put interested in Bitcoin. Just make sure the keyword appears somewhere. Yeah.
Exactly, because that keyword is actually working. Yeah. And then another thing, even if I see Bitcoin, I'm going to be like, yes, I got it. Like, I got my Bitcoiner. And then I see the profile. I work here. This is my role. And that's it. Don't do that. So what I would suggest anyone to do is take your actual CV, copy paste it into your experience section on LinkedIn. So it doesn't matter if I have your original CV or I export your profile into PDF, I have enough information to work with. People can use those bullet points. I constantly talk about bullet points for CV, for LinkedIn, for everything. Not because like, oh, that's my personal, something that I personally like to see as a recruiter. No, I just think it makes things like clear and easy to read. Yeah. It's not a deal breaker if you don't. No one is going to reject you for not using it. It's just much easier to read. So do that on your LinkedIn profile. Just put some bullet points there. Explain to us what you did in the role, what your duties were, and just put some details there. Highlight you're a Bitcoiner, and we should be totally good to go.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you. And sometimes there are jobs on LinkedIn and you see there are already 500 people who applied for it. Is that a number we should take seriously? Should we still apply when we see that? Yeah, what's the deal with that?
So I read somewhere, I think it's an official LinkedIn statement, like from their resource, that number of applicants is not an actual number of applicants. It's a number of people who clicked on the job. I'm pretty sure, I mean, that makes sense. It doesn't make any sense that, at least from my perspective, like I would see for some job that I posted like 1,000 applicants, and then in my pipeline I see 100. I'm like, what's going on? And it's actually just the number of people who clicked on the link. So disregard it and go apply. Okay. Just don't look at that number. It's even if it's true, go and apply. You will be just one among those 1,000 people. I agree. But if you don't apply, you will not even be in the queue. So
yeah. And does it matter if you're the first or the last who applies for a job? Does it matter how fast you are? Should you try and be the first, or it makes no difference?
I feel like my questions are going to confuse people because I just have this urge to go like, it depends. But once again, it depends. So if you are applying for an early stage startup, which most companies in Bitcoin industry are, first few calls could be those calibration calls, if you will. Like, we're still not sure what exactly we're looking for. But then you apply last, you have a higher chance of receiving one of those oh, we're sorry, but the position has been taken, because by the time they put you into the hiring process, the guy who applied first is already in salary negotiation stage or close to it. So I would just advise people, don't think about it. I mean, it could be a factor, or it just depends about on the company you're applying for, but just don't stress about it. Apply. If you see the job has been posted 2 months ago and you're like, oh, it's been a long time, yes, there is a chance that you will be rejected because the position has been filled, but there's also a chance that they were just failing to find this good talent. That's why the role is open for 2 months. Shoot your shot. You have nothing to lose.
Yeah, if it's still open, then there's a reason, unless somebody
Yeah.
forgot. Great. And in terms of cover letters, what can we tell people about cover letters? And also, now with AI, I've seen lots of services like True, generate your cover letter. Is that something that we can recommend people to use, or rather not, because it's frowned upon to use AI? What's the situation there?
I don't think it's a fraud. Like, if you're applying for a corporation, any one of those large corporations, and you want to make sure you stand out, then sure, go ahead, use it. Nobody cares. You're going to be just a number in that corporation anyway. So you may just as well, use an AI to help you build stuff. Why not? But if you are a Bitcoiner and you're applying for a Bitcoin company, that is probably like very early stage, like Series A, Series B stuff. You don't want to be a number. You're not going to be a number. Like, your ideas are so valuable. You need to have a voice. And for me, it kind of all starts with that cover letter. So like, I don't think a true Bitcoiner needs it. I'm personally very bad at writing. And the last cover letter I wrote began with, hi, you can call me Thunder, and I suck at writing cover letters, but let me tell you why I want to work here. And it worked. Make it human. Be yourself. We talked about it. I wrote about it in the guide, like do and don'ts with cover letters. So you guys can go there and check out for more details. But definitely the biggest takeaway is just make it personal and be yourself. You don't have to be a professional writer in order to have a good cover letter. You just need to be you. Like, are you aligned with the goal of this company? Are you aligned with their mission? Share that. Tell them why. Tell them how you're aligned. Are you scared? Are you excited when the interview starts? Okay, when an interviewer asks you how you're doing, you say, I'm okay, but I'm very excited for having this opportunity to talk to you today. So I'm a little bit nervous. Be human. We're not robots. We're Bitcoiners. We know better. And, being transparent and honest is, from my perspective, very, very good and valuable thing. So with the cover letters, especially, be yourself.
And I think the why is, I don't know in your experience, but if I were hiring, the why would be one of the most important things that I'm looking at, right?
Yes. And then can you imagine having an AI answering that question? Why?
Yeah.
Like,
well,
I don't think it would work.
I haven't tried them out yet, but maybe,
Maybe we should test it and see the results and then share the results with people.
Yeah, exactly. Let's talk about ATS systems. I never knew they existed, so maybe many other people don't know about them. Can you tell us what they are, how they work, and what job seekers should know about them?
Okay, so ATS stands for Applicant Tracking System, and it's basically a software that keeps your candidacy in order, if you will. So like, if you apply for a certain job, your application will go under that specific job, and then we can schedule calls, we can have your profile, we can keep our interview notes, the progress and everything. It's really, really cool. I love them. Honestly, I think every recruiter does. We even have lifelong recruiters. Like we have our favorite one or the one that we don't like to use. Um, but I don't think job seekers should really spend too much time thinking about them. The only thing I would say people need to know is that these tools remember everything. So if you applied 3 years ago and you were in a process and you offended anyone for any reason, and I put that in my notes, like this person was kind of rude to us, we don't want to continue the process, blah, blah, blah. And then 3 years goes by and you apply again for any other role. Naturally, maybe I'm not in that organization anymore. Maybe, people who were part of that process are no longer part of the company or just not part of this process. So whoever comes in will just see the comments that we made, like,
Yeah.
But beside that, also, like if you apply for 10 different roles, the system will remember. The system will not automatically reject you. I know some systems can do that. I've never done that in my career. I've never used them for such things, and I will never do that. But system will tell us like, hey, this person applied to 10 different roles, like completely different. We're talking compliance, legal, marketing, like whatever is in your mind. So maybe just a takeaway would be, don't apply to every single role you see just because you're shooting your shot and you think like, oh, it's going to work somewhere. If they are using the ATS, the bigger chance you're seeing is that like, this person is not very serious. You're just apply to everything you see.
Yeah.
But good news is a lot of startups don't even use ATS. So we're good to go. ATS can be pricey. They are not very cheap tools. So if there is no internal hiring team in the company, then there is really no need for ATS. Or even if they have it, it's just something like very basic, just to help them organize the applications and to help them with scheduling calls. But I would not really lose any sleep if I was a job seeker over ATS.
Yeah, the only reason why I was wondering about them is because I'm sure you can set up rules, whatever, to automatically filter or reject people to make your job easier. And I was just wondering if there is certain keywords or something that good people who don't know about this can use in order not to be filtered out unfairly by a system,
That's a very common problem in fiat world. It is. It's like if you say that you are, I don't know, customer support representative and their keyword is customer service representative, like it's a problem. But honestly, not in the Bitcoin industry. First of all, there are not too many internal recruiters. There are not too many internal hiring teams. Second of all, where there are recruiters and internal hiring teams, we do things by hand. So nothing is automated in that extent because we're looking for Bitcoiners. And yes, it will take longer, but that's okay.
Yeah.
So I've never heard, when I talk to other companies, hiring managers across industry, I've never heard anyone saying like, oh, we have an ATS and we set for like keywords or like automatic rejection and whatnot. I don't think that's a thing here. And I don't think it will ever be a thing. As mentioned, a lot of these companies don't even use ATS. So that's pretty convenient. But even when they start using it, I am also pretty positive no one will be doing that because why?
Yeah.
It's wrong on so many levels.
Yeah, that's good news. All right. Interviews. That's the last thing I have on my list before we get to questions from the Bitvocation audience. Do's and don'ts interviews. Can you share something with us about that?
I can, but I also want your take on this one. Because yes, I think it's very important to have like Sometimes I answer these questions from an interviewer perspective, and sometimes I answer this question from the person being interviewed. So I believe those interviews, I hate the word interview, by the way,
Mm.
it's a call. So I think they are two-way streets, and it's not about what you can do good and what you, yeah, like there are do and don'ts, but there are also do and don'ts for interviewers too. And I would really love to hear your experience and like what you think interviewers better, or like do and don'ts for interviewers. Deal?
Yeah, I don't have a lot to share, but I will share, of course. You start.
So I'm so boring with this, but be yourself. That's a do, totally do. I already mentioned that like if you're very nervous, just say it. It's fine. Like, guys, I went to the stage on Madeira in Madeira and I said I'm nervous. I literally said, don't throw stones at me. It's my first time. So like be brave. Say like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm just a little excited to talk to you. And once you get it out of your system, once you say like, so excited, for having this opportunity to talk to you today about this role, you're gonna feel like 5 pounds or 5 kilos lighter, and it just goes like natural flow from that. So be yourself, be honest, talk about your experience and the things that are not in your CV as well, because as we know, sometimes we just want a CV to look like smaller than it is, and we just want to keep some things out because we don't think they're relevant. So talk about those things too. Why not? Ask questions and be mindful of the time. Don't waste 5, 6, 7, 10 minutes answering one simple question, and then just like mumble rumble and spin in a circle without getting to the point. Like, try to avoid those very long storytelling answers and be mindful of the time. Now we're already talking about don'ts, so check the clock, be respectful of the time, but also at the same time try not to answer with like 2 3 sentences. Like, do you have experience with, I don't know, this? Yes, I do. Do you care to elaborate a little bit? So like try to find that perfect balance between having super great answers and having, once upon a time I woke up and I did that answer. Try to find that mid ground and pay attention to the thought.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, great.
What's your take?
Yeah, so for me, the reason why I can't share so much is that I have been lucky enough not to be in this situation for, I cannot even remember. Because most of my jobs or as a freelancer have been through my network, and it just started with someone I knew. Oh, can you do this for us? You have done this already. We had a quick chat, and then the next day I started. So it's not a typical interview situation. I did have an interview for my, like 5 years ago, for my very first job in crypto, when I worked for the Exodus wallet. That was the first time that I had to go through this whole application process and have these, yeah, typical interviews like, tell us about a time when you had to solve a crisis or whatever, something. And I suck at these things because I'm a future person. I'm not a past person. So I don't remember things, like literally. So I could not answer this question even though I'm sure I have solved tons of challenges or crises in my career. But I could not remember this question in the interview, and I was so embarrassed, and I thought I had blown it. And then afterwards, after I had time to think about, I sent them a letter. I was like, oh, I'm sorry about the interview, but I thought of a situation in here, so I said it in writing. But this is what I always, these are also the kind of questions that people can prepare for, or I have a feeling that often, maybe in the fiat world, interviews are so fake because you know what questions may come, you pick the best answer, or there are so many career coaches online, this is how you should answer question X, whatever. So I'm like, how real and authentic are these interviews actually? So that's why for me, whenever I'm in a conversation with a hiring manager or a potential freelance client, I'm just focusing on connecting on a human level, because in the end, they can see my professional experience from my proof of work. And in the end, it's just about, do I fit into the team? Will we be able to work together like on a human level? And yeah, so that's why I can totally understand people who are nervous before interviews, who are afraid to say the wrong things. Um, yeah, so like you said, be yourself, say when you're nervous, or when you cannot answer a question. That's what I would also suggest.
But what I'm saying to people is what I say to myself too. Like, it's been a while, it's been a few years since I had an interview, but um, it's the same for me. Like, I will forget to say something, I will get nervous. So like, it's not like, oh, I'm Miss Perfect and I'm telling you how you should do it. No, I'm telling you from a human perspective. I'm telling you what challenges that I face and that I assume other people face as well. It's not just about like, oh, how you should. I always say that to people. There's no right or wrong answer. This is not a quiz. I'm not your teacher. It's about your flow of thoughts. It's about your mindset and if you can fit in the team or not. You know, your experience. And if you come to the case study or a technical assessment, that will talk about your skill set. But when we talk, it's all about getting to know each other. So there's no right or wrong answer.
Yeah.
And I know that even when you say that to people, they are still feeling like, I can screw this up. So, amazing takeaway from you is that you had some time to think about it after the call and you email them.
Mm.
Amazing takeaway.
Yeah, I really
It's fine.
yeah,
You got, you were excited. Maybe, you know, like whatever. Maybe you had a bad day privately and you just wasn't 100% yourself during a call. That's also cool. Email them.
yeah, yeah,
As simple as that.
great. All right. Thank you for everything so far. Shall we look at some questions we got from
Let's
the
go.
audience? All right.
This is a hot seat now.
We got some surprising questions that are not exactly about finding a job or recruitment, but they are still related to working in Bitcoin. So I find them very interesting. So let's see how we can help people here. I'm just going to read them we're just going to do them one by one in the order that they came in. So the first one is how to handle infrequent, unreliable payroll policy. When the payment day is inconsistent, the amount is not prorated by any metric, there's a lack of follow-up with failed transaction. Oh, wow, that's a very specific question. So yeah, how to handle infrequent payroll policy. I didn't know that this is a thing. I have had this in one company, and then I was hired to do payroll and fix it. So, but
You fix the problem.
so, but in your experience, is there something that you hear about in Bitcoin? Is that a thing?
I had that situation in fiat, back in the fiat world. I had this situation a long time ago. I'm not sure I'm the right person to answer this because I'm a recruiter and it's a very tricky question to answer. Um, but okay, let's put my 2 cents in. Um, if there is an HR department or if there is an accounting department that is taking care of the payroll, then you go and talk to them. If there is no such department, I would not be very surprised because we're very probably most likely talking about very young organization. So if they are having these issues and no professionals handle this matter, then maybe the conversation should go around what can I do to help you set up this process? Can we determine the span of when the payment is going to take place? Like, I don't know, from 25th to 31st. So like they have a few days to organize their time. If you're a developer, maybe ask a question like, can I do anything to automate this for you? There are tools online that can help with this, but you know, those tools can be pricey. If the organization is young, naturally they don't want to spend their resources, neither would I. Um, but also on the other hand, if something is like inconsistent, infrequent, like what are we talking about here? Is it like they owe me for 2-3 months, or is it like it should have been 25th and it's 28th?
Yeah.
Because if it's the second and you're working as a contractor, those things are normal.
Yeah.
It's like your bank and any third party that's involved in the process takes a few days. Also, the fees they are taking vary. So it's a very complex topic. And I feel like the question is maybe coming from someone who's in a startup first time, or just maybe in like a very young organization the first time. The best thing I can say is just go talk to people.
And yeah, I think this might be a startup issue. I do, not to explain, not to excuse it, but I can shed some light on this from when this happened in the company where I worked, especially when it's about crypto payments or like stable coins or Bitcoin, whatever, if it's not fiat. And also depends on how this startup is funded. If they're receiving grants or something, there might be multi-sig wallets involved where several people need to release the funds. You need to first wait for, like in my case, I needed all the invoices of all the freelancers every month by a certain date. Before I didn't have this, all the invoices, I didn't know the number that I needed to request from the multisig. Then the multisig is done by several people. One of them might be on a plane or at a conference or something. So it takes also a little bit before the funds are released. Yes, so this could have all been organized better. So this is me as a German, efficient, organized person. I managed to fix things and do them a little bit better. But yeah, so just to explain why, especially when you are paid not in fiat, because of private keys and multi-sig and movement of funds, this can happen. It's not good. It can be done better, but maybe this is something
I'm
that,
also not excusing it. I think people should be paid for their work on the agreed
absolutely,
date.
yes.
I'm just saying I understand, sort of. And I think we should focus more on helping people, helping founders to overcome these challenges rather than just put shame on them. And, you know, they're like, oh, they didn't do this. So like, if we have founders listening, guys, think about your payroll, hire an accountant, hire a professional who can take care of this. So you
Or me,
have
I loved my job. It's
people.
so great to pay people. You make them so happy when you pay them. I
I
love.
know.
So, but anyone who
Okay,
does,
I'm glad we're aligned on
yeah.
this one.
So if it's just a matter of days, okay, it's not nice. But if you don't get paid in 3 months, then something is wrong.
Oh
It
yeah,
don't work for free anymore.
leave,
Uh,
just leave.
yeah. Great. Okay, next question. Why do you never have job openings for software UX usability testers like me?
I think I know what was going on with this one. So okay, my official answer is gonna be there are roles on the market for these.
I
I
said
just saw
in,
on Bitvocation
yeah.
there are, but I think this one was referred to the internal role I have. And what I can say about it is that we have an amazing team that's been around since day one, and you guys will know when we're ready to expand. But so far, we just have geniuses in that
Mhm.
area working on their magic every day.
Yeah, so if you're on the Bitvocation feed, I see a lot of, well, maybe not a lot, but I do see UX design.
A decent number,
Yeah,
a
and
decent number.
you can, if you haven't seen them in a while, you can search, just type UX, and you will see all the listings in one glance. All right. How can we get involved in engineering consultancy roles priced in sats?
I'm so boring with Noster. I need to ask to be their ambassador officially. Like that's it. I'm becoming a Noster ambassador. So my answer is
Not
Noster.
wearing purple
Uh,
today.
I'm not. I'm wearing red. Yes. I was actually, when I sat down and looked at the camera, I was like, why am I not wearing purple? I don't have enough purple stuff. I need to go shopping for purple stuff. Um, okay, try Noster, offer your services there. There are so many success stories from Noster in the last month that I cannot even begin. Like, I don't know where to begin with examples, but I love it. If you get, and you will probably get a gig on Noster, they will pay you in sats because people are looking for services that they can pay in sats. Then you can use that to create your own portfolio, and maybe why not go and offer your services to some companies if they need any, external help. Also, we're willing to pay in sats. Most of them are willing to pay in sats, so you can also do that. There is a sub thread or sub forum, I'm not sure the proper term for that, on Reddit. That's called like jobs for Bitcoin, for like number 4, jobs for Bitcoin. I'm not the greatest fan of that thread because there's a lot of shitcoinery going on. There's a lot of non-related things, but there are also some like, I need, this to be done, I will pay in sats, or I need that to be done, it will be paid in sats. But so to conclude, Noster, check out that jobs for Bitcoin Reddit forum, and think about creating your own gig and just, charging in sats. Why not?
Yeah, and also any on any job board, I think when the payment is like on our bot in Telegram, we have this as an extra thing. It says pays in Bitcoin. So there are many companies also who pay in Bitcoin, whether
Pay in Bitcoin, just don't put it publicly.
so
Not for any reason, but most of the companies pay in Bitcoin.
yeah, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
So
they do. It's
yeah.
fine.
And there's also a new freelancer site, Bitcoin freelancer site. I don't know if you mentioned it also in your guide, um, which I'm sure also pays in Bitcoin.
I'm not sure I did, but if you remember the name of it, share it
Yeah,
so we can.
you can put it in the video.
Yeah.
All right. What are the top 10 Bitcoin related jobs needed in the industry?
Let's hear from the creator of Bitvocation.
I haven't done that research yet, but I will.
I thought you're doing the same that I'm doing. Like I get into your thread every day and just go like, tick, tick, tick. But okay, I at 50 or even more percent are still engineering roles.
Yeah.
And the good thing is I'm seeing the increased number of marketing, accountants, social media, business development, I would say. Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be my take.
Yeah, the reason I haven't done the research yet, but I already, because we have the database, of course, in the back end, and I love making pivot tables and all of this kind of stuff. But I thought this will be very interesting in a few months once the bull market really hits, and I expect tons more job during that time to see also the difference. What are the roles in the bear market versus a bull market, and I think during bear market, it's mostly developer roles, and all the other roles then come in bull market when teams have more money to hire more staff rather than just
And more need, for marketing, for business development, for customer service. For the last few months, there was a decrease in customer service roles.
Mm-hmm.
I just realized, like, I was looking at different job boards. Like, I check on your thread, then I go to check on bitcoinerjobs.com, then I go to ostrich work. Like, I check all of these available job boards from time to time just for fun. I mean, for fun. I think it's important to keep up with the industry. And last few months, I noticed like almost zero demand for customer service agents, like just workers. And I was like, what is going on? So I also expect that to change now with full market too. I seeing like marketing is starting to hit off, which is really good, which means that we have more companies ready to advertise their products. It's really cool to see what's going on.
Yeah.
But I agree. I agree. developing roles, engineering roles in general, always have that like 50% at least of
Yeah.
the take, and then everyone else are
Yeah,
in
and
that other group.
it's like when the bull market hits, when the price goes times 10, the ticket load goes times 10, customer service tickets. And I'm like, after so many cycles, don't companies know this that they have to prepare? And because you need 10 times more staff also, almost. But yeah, I guess it's also a funding issue. After a long bear market, you may not have the funds to.
It's not just a funding issue. I think it's a challenging for these young organizations. Like, okay, we need 10 more people, but what are we going to do with these 10 people after the volume goes down? Like,
Yeah, that
I
is.
think it's challenging overall, and that's what I try to tackle a little bit in that second ebook for founders and hiring managers. Like, think about your hiring, put your hiring in your roadmap. It's your strategic goal. You need to think about it strategically. It's very, very challenging, but I think it's doable.
Yeah. Yeah, and also cross training. Or I think every person in an organization should spend a few hours at the front talking to customers. That's where the product gets made, but that's where you understand what your customers want, what they need, what the challenges are. It informs everything, the products and services. So yeah, that's how I would solve things, by
Agreed.
cross training or cross using people. All right. I got into digital assets because of Bitcoin. I am now in a different crypto ecosystem and now find it difficult to reposition myself back into Bitcoin only. How do I break that stigma?
I have some ideas, but I want to hear your opinion too.
Yes. So, because that has been me, because I have been working in Web3, yeah, for a few years, and decided a few months ago to just only concentrate on Bitcoin now. And honestly, like what we have said already, be visible. Talk about Bitcoin. I mean, we all come from a shitcoin background, which is fiat. Whether you come from now, you took a detour through crypto or Web3 or blockchain or whatever, it doesn't matter. Just start talking about Bitcoin. Be visible, especially if you, like, the hardcore Bitcoiners will think, oh my God, he or she saw the light and is focusing back on Bitcoin. So you will be welcomed with open arms. And
That was my take. That's what I wanted to say.
so yeah, whether you just start out and you come from a fiat background, or you have a crypto background, just focus on Bitcoin only and make it known. That's all.
And it's fine. Just be transparent and honest about your story. It's one thing when you say like, "Oh, I love Bitcoin, but my second favorite is Ethereum, but I'm a Bitcoiner." You're not. But saying, "I used to love this. I used to do this, but then I started reading about this and I realized this is not good, but this is the way out." That's when you are like, "Ah, something happened. The angels sang behind your back." Like, we love that. Be honest about your story, be transparent about it, and just talk about that you're there for the right reasons, not because it's cool to have it in your resume, but because you realize it's like the best one. There's no second best.
There's no second best.
Just be honest and transparent.
Exactly. Okay, two more. Why aren't most HR accounting executives including Bitcoin as a salary option or a benefit perk in a package, part of the retirement portfolio, and so on? Well,
This
because
is so funny. So a few minutes ago, we were talking about inconsistent payment. And now we're talking like, why are we not putting Bitcoin in our retirement funds? It's an amazing idea. Founders, if you're listening to us, think about it. This is best idea in the world. But we will come to it. Come on, like, really just talk about inconsistent pay. We're talking about very young organization that most likely don't even have an accountant to take care of the paycheck. So we will come to it. It's a perfect idea. If there is any company that's already doing it, step out, brag about it, because it's such a flex. Speaking of Gen Z vocabulary, it's such a flex. Brag about it, do it. If you're not, just consider doing it in the future, but it will take us some time to do that. As for paying in Bitcoin, as we already mentioned, a lot of companies do that. There are some companies that I see posting jobs. They don't click or like they don't put pay me in Bitcoin, and I know for a fact they're paying in Bitcoin. So maybe they just don't put it there, but they pay in Bitcoin. As for everything else, that should be a benefit. I'm pretty sure it will come. Let's just give it a bit time. This is a very, very young industry.
It's very, very early, as we like to say. And also, you have to consider how much bureaucracy and admin and regulation and tax laws for every jurisdiction there are involved.
It
So,
takes a full department just for that.
yeah, I think this question also is maybe about fiat companies who could offer this as a as a perk, which I agree. But yeah, it's still very early. But there is a company in Canada, blockrewards.ca, that I just heard about in Madeira, that are starting to advise companies on exactly this, from what I understood. So,
Oh, that's so cool. Shout out.
all right, last one. I am in tech as a solutions architect, interested in getting into the Bitcoin space. Is there any room for integration design or strategist type roles for how companies can adopt and adapt to Bitcoin? I want to help onboard companies with payment processors for Bitcoin and align them with a proper business strategy. Yes. Yeah, I think.
This sounds amazing.
Yeah, this is.
Amazing idea. Amazing back. Whoever sent this question, text me. Let's talk about this. I think there is a lot of room for this. I think it will probably take some time to find you a perfect role. Once again, hiring managers, if you're listening, listen to this, listen to what people want to do. But whoever asked this question, just feel free to shoot me a message. Let's talk about it. I think it's gonna take like a few months to get you the perfect, role, but totally have space for that. Totally doable. And sorry, an amazing idea.
Yeah. And also, I think all the payment processors or POS solution providers, they would be happy to have people go into the companies and actually teach this or
The challenge is that usually you don't need more than one.
more than one
That's
person.
more than one person, yeah, in these kind of roles. But like, yeah, let's.
I mean, it's a global thing, you know, there are many different areas and countries, and this I could see this also as a freelance commission-based position. I mean, I would just, if I were this person, I would just contact every POS, every payment solution provider currently in Bitcoin. There is a few, but not that many. It's you know, it's easy to contact.
I agree. I agree, but I also think that these companies at the same time are very, how should I say, like very, very protective of what they do, and they would rather not having this type of work outsourced. So usually these type of roles are internal roles because of like, secrets and what we do and how we do it, blah blah blah. So that's the like having this as a freelance would be amazing. But I just think that companies would rather have this role internally, which is also very cool.
Yeah.
But everything is possible. I think everything is possible here.
Yeah, and of course, you should be contacting Thunder and not those companies directly.
No, contact them. I don't know every company. Come on, just shoot your shot. If you need help, reach out. If you already know where you want to go, contact them. Go, go, go.
Perfect. Thank you, Thunder. Thank you, Bitvocation crew, for sending all your questions. I hope this has been super useful for me. It has been very insightful. Thank you so much. Yeah, everybody go and read Thunder's books. I'm going to link somewhere when I publish this somewhere. And yeah, any last words? We have 3 minutes left, Thunder.
I just want to thank you for making me do this. When Anja asked me to do this, my first reaction was like, I don't want to do this. But then I remember telling her, like, I hate doing these things until I do them. Then I feel good. So thank you for having me, and thank you for opening this conversation, opening this topic. And as we already discussed, like, we are among first people to actually talk about these things publicly. And I'm excited to see what else we're going to talk about. You know, when we talk about market and hiring and everything, we should talk about challenges. So if you guys have anything else that we didn't cover that you still think is a challenge, something that you don't understand, something that you need more clarification on, just shoot a message to either one of us, and we will make sure to have your answer.
Yeah, and maybe we should do this once a year or so, or once in a bull
We
market.
could.
Bear market.
But next time we're getting the full sheet on from Bitvocation data, like, okay, guys, this is what's going on. Like, these rules are up, these are down. So we should do that.
I can't wait because I need spreadsheets and databases in my life, you know, so creating my own.
When is the first birthday of Bitvocation?
It's not that old yet. Maybe half a year or so in the second half of this year, October or so, I think. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember it was somewhere in the fall, but like I don't know exactly when. I was among first 10 people to subscribe.
Thank you. And now we have over 400, so it's growing steadily. Yeah. Thank you, Thunder. Great to see you again.
Thank you, Anja. Hope to see you again in person
Yes.
sometime this year.
Yeah. We'll make